Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hittyland for this episode of Halos of the Infield. Todd Fox, the Lone Star Halo. It has been a while since we've recorded together. We're going to talk about the horrendous Oakland A series. We're going to talk a little bit about Mike Trout's coming back soon, question mark. Hell, it took him so long to come back that the All-Star break came, and number 6 even came back. All that and more up next.
Hey, you are now listening or watching the Halos in the Infield podcast, sponsored in part by Noble L Works over on 1621 South Sinclair, where you can get discounts by just mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Drink discounts on us, baby. And also by 714 Tickets, 714 Tickets, 714 Tickets. The price you see is the price you get, and you also get 10% additionally off in the Apply Now code once you order your tickets just by mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Now enjoy the show.
In the land of Astros, I play my part with the Halos in the infield. I'll make my mark. I'm the Lone Star Halo, shining bright tonight. In a sea of rangers, I'll stand and fight with the Halos in the outfield under stadium lights. From Texas to Anaheim, we'll soar to new heights. We'll soar to new heights.
Hey. Well, speaking of that Lone Star Halo, we're back and better than ever. We're back. We're so back. Me and Fernando doing a show as we've started off this channel together, and we're still married. But I haven't given him the ring yet, so no bling bling.
Yeah, exactly.
still
Where's
dating.
my ring, asshole?
But on this show, like I said, Fernando brought out the topics for tonight. We got Trout, everything else, talking about it. And what do you want to hit first, my man?
First thing I want to say, I don't want to come off as like tooting my own horn because I didn't make the song, Randy did. But
Mhm.
I find myself singing the Lone Star Halo song a lot.
I will say every time I watch a show, whether I'm on it with you or not, just to see what's, how we sounded or whatever, or when you do a show, that is, again, some pretty good stuff that sticks in your ear. Like, what's that called? The ear bud or whatever. Like, you just can't get it out of your head, man.
Yeah, we've heard that. I mean, anybody who's really tuned in over the last month, when you and I haven't been able to record together, a lot of our guests are like, "Oh, it's a good song."
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So he
dude.
really did a really good job with it.
Yeah, excellent work, by the way.
I also really like the Calhoun song.
Yeah, that gets stuck in your head too. It's like I'll be at a delivery. It's like it's a big Calhoun, the golden dawn.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Anyway,
who's whatever the ending line is. Anyway. So we're going to talk a little bit about that horrible A series. You know what? Let's just jump straight into that, so then maybe we can have a little bit of fun near the end of the show.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, let's just get how bad the offense was the first two games. Now, you guys touched on it, you and Joe, about the fact that Ron Washington had said something that I'd never heard before. You guys had never heard it before. I've never heard a manager say, well, our guys are just tired. Yeah, no shit. It's a war of attrition. That's the beauty in baseball. It's so long compared to every other sport that, injuries matter because, there's so many moving pieces to it all. Your depth is so important. Because, I feel like in sports like football, because there's such a condensed season, it's a lot more possible to have these Linsanity type runs, the Tim Tebow runs, if you will, in football, where these guys are able to have 4 or 5 average games. For instance, I'm a Broncos fan, Super Bowl 50. The Broncos had no business being as good as they were that year because Peyton Manning was injured most of the year. Brock Osweiler was able to be an elite quarterback for 6 or 7 games, beating the Patriots, who were still very much in their glory days at that point. My point is, it's very easy in a sport like that to have a couple of guys make the difference. But in baseball, because it's such a long season, I feel like it's harder to replicate that kind of success. And if you don't believe me, I mean, look at the Dodgers. They're riddled with injuries right now, and they're having the same problem they always have. Where's the pitching?
Yeah, they just DFA'd Paxton, who's 8-2 with a 4.43 ERA.
Yeah.
What the hell happened there? But no, it's peaks and valleys in baseball. It really is all season because it's such a long season. But if I was a reporter or a fly on the wall when Ron Washington said that, I would have immediately raised my hand and said, well, if these guys are so tired, why are we not playing Calhoun? Why is Pilar not playing almost every day? Why is a guy like everyone forgets about, dude, Theis, like plays once every 2 weeks? I
Is
mean,
that guy even on the roster anymore? Like, I know he's technically there, but
I
is
think
he not allowed to get played for some reason?
yeah, because he only got to play the other day because Ohapi's flight was late. So, I mean, Ohapi would have started again. So, and you just came off 5 or 6 days of vacation time. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's a lame ass excuse, and I'll call him out for that. I just believe that this is a team that when me and Joe were talking about it, me and you have talked about it, analytics has ruined any kind of cohesiveness that can be coming from this team via in the clubhouse or on the field. And it's ruined a lot of things. I think they have not been able to gel. And when you have injuries and everything else, that hurts it too. So guys are coming back and guys are leaving. So this roster, Fernando, is going to be drastically, I believe, different in the next couple of weeks.
So I don't want to talk too much right now about the trade deadline because we still have a week's worth of shows leading up to that, and I don't want to announce too much. But as of right now, it does seem like we are doing a trade deadline show like we've done in years past. There will be some variation of it. We don't know how long yet. Hang tight for the details.
Well, I
But
know we'll have this, Fernando. We'll have the ticker on the bottom, and we'll have this when something happens.
I like that. That's good. That's good. So yeah, so we're gonna have guests on. Well, we'll give you guys the details with more to come. So I don't want to talk too much about the trade deadline, but I do want to ask you this about it.
Mm-hmm.
Over under. The Angels will trade away more than 4 players in the next week.
I'm gonna say over. My predictions have been 50-50 of late, but I'm gonna say we get rid of 6 guys.
Okay, without too many details, who are those 6 you think?
Estevez, Ward, Renifo. I'm gonna throw a wild card in there. I'm gonna throw Theis, and then I would say absolutely. Why am I forgetting Anderson? And I would say one more bullpen piece. So like a
Luis Garcia.
A Luis Garcia or a Hunter Strickland.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's good. I agree with everything except Rengifo. I don't think they'll trade Rengifo unless they get blown away. I think you and I are kind of on the same boat of like keep Rengifo, maybe sign him to a team-friendly extension. I'd be all for that.
I'd love it.
Yeah, just because we really have nobody else there. You know what I mean? Because
I would
they
say
gave up on Sano. Number 6 is going to get hurt, in 3 days.
Mm-hmm. I think the only reason why they're going to keep Renifo is because Drury never panned out to where they could get something for him. And I think now they look at it, they're like, well, okay, we're going to take a loss on Drury, but we're not going to, get a win on what do you call it? Renifo. So
let me ask you this. So do you think they either trade Ward or trade Pilar? Or is there a chance they trade both of them?
If they want to do Pilar right, they'll trade him. And
because he announced his retirement after this year, right?
Yeah. Okay. I would like for him to get one last shot at a playoff run, but I don't think they will. So it's most likely will be Ward.
Okay. Yeah, Ward's going to be interesting to see if they are able to pull off that trade. But we'll talk more about that later. Let's talk real quick about Trout coming back. Potentially here in the next week or so. How do you feel about that?
Mixed feelings because, although he got off to what everyone thought was a nice start with 10 home runs, the RBIs was embarrassing at 14. The batting average was not good at 230. He was supposed to make this dramatic change at catching the fastball. And once again, 9 of his 10 home runs were off of breaking pitches. So it's Robert was talking about having his change, his swing stance and all that other stuff. And maybe he's addressed that. Who knows? But I just don't see any like reason for him to come back other than pad his overall Hall of Fame stats.
My whole thing is, do I want to watch Trout play? Of course. But with that being said, I don't want it to be another year where he comes back, plays 2 or 3 games, and it's like, well, he's hurt again. It's
Yeah.
like, if you're not ready to come back, don't. Simple as that. This team isn't going anywhere. If the excuse is going to be because we want to run Joe Adele and Mickey Moniak out there and just run to the ground and see what we truly have in those guys, then great. I can live with that. But because at that point, once again, we have a sense of direction.
Can I ask you a question with
course.
Trout? Sorry to interrupt, but like,
No,
let's
go ahead.
just say they shut him down for the rest of the season, right? We
Okay.
don't see any more Trout for the rest of the year. Maybe he does re-injure something. But next year, for you to be satisfied as an Angels fan, forget the record, but as a Mike Trout fan and wanting him to remain an Angel, does he have to give you 145 games at least without you doubting his overall ability anymore?
No, my expectation of Trout now is if I can get 110 to 120 games out of him, I would be okay with it. But here's the caveat: going into next season, if they shut him down, something has to change. We talked about it with Heath Bell, and I did re-listen to that interview. And you and I have talked off air many times. I don't listen to our interviews often. I hate the sound of my voice. I don't know why you guys listen to it, but you do, and you've done it for years, and I appreciate that. But my point is this. Heath Bell was absolutely right. Something has to change with Trout. He's not going to be the vocal leader. Fine. You know what? We can learn to live with that because we now have guys who can be those leaders. Logan O'Hoppe, Zach Neto, maybe even to an extent a guy like Shanuel today. And I'll say this. Simo, the guy that was just drafted, Christian Moore, he's going to be that guy. I can tell you that already. Maybe not right away, but, I mean, the guy came in with swagger right out the gate. So with that being said, Trout needs to be a full-time DH. Trout needs to be a first baseman and, maybe put Shanuel in a corner outfield spot, or at the least, Trout needs to be a corner outfielder again. We just don't have a true center fielder anymore. Not that Trout doesn't have the ability to be a center fielder. He can still field the position, but the problem is he's always hurt. He's going to continuously get hurt. So put him in a situation where he's maybe only hitting, because then there really is no excuse to go on the IL as much, because it's like, dude, just go up there and hit. Look at Pools. The guy literally was on a wheelchair half the time, essentially, and he was still hitting.
And he still played 150 to 155 games,
That's
except
why
for that.
I
Yeah.
make fun of him or say like, well, he's a terrible contract, because none of us ever questioned the fact that he wanted to play baseball until the very end, of course.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I brought up that question, because Mike Trout, for me, because maybe I'm fickle, maybe I'm jaded a bit, but I'm not putting him in the Rendon category or number 6, excuse me, but and not at all, because those are two different players. But I'm also waiting on him to get hurt, and I don't like that as a fan, because that's making me not trust him or like him as much as I used to. There's no doubt that the ability is there, but I think for me, he has to play 140 to 145 games. Where okay, maybe you rest him twice a month, that type of deal. If you, like you said, corner outfielder, DH, I'm fine with all that. But to me, to pass my biased, selfish fandom, I think, test, he needs to go 145 to me, at least, because of all the injuries last few years. And then it would be like 2027 or 2026. I would be like, okay, I'm ready for Trout. I know I'm not doubting him anymore. And I think that's what a lot of fans need, whether it's your, 120 or my 145, you need at least most of the season from Trout.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can live with 120 if, as long as we're getting that consistently for the rest of his career, I can live with that. I just don't want it to be, 140 1 year, 80 games the next year,
Right.
120, 60. I don't want that. Because at the end of the day, if this is the Trout we're going to be getting now, where he's only playing 50 to 60 games, that's when I really start to think to myself, is this guy actually going to get in the Hall of Fame? Or is he just going to be the Hall of Very, Very Good? Who eventually gets in with like the Veterans Committee kind of thing. Because there was a time where everyone was like, this guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a generational talent. And the first half of his career, absolutely generational talent. But now the last, half decade of Trout has been a very good player, but not a generational talent anymore.
Well, let me tell you this: with all the injuries that the guy from that I can't stand from Texas, um, God, what's his name? Why am I
Corey
blank-
Seager,
Yeah, Corey Seager.
the
They're
greatest
already
player of all
talking,
time.
yeah, they're talking about him being a Hall of Famer when you've had only a handful of seasons and Trout's numbers blow him away. And I get it; it's because his position. But Mike Trout was touted as a Hall of Famer before he ran into these rashes of injury. So I think he's already punched his ticket. To be honest with you, I think the
I sure
voters,
hope so. We don't
the
have a lot of Hall of Famers. We
we
won.
don't. The voters and the fans are going to get him in. There's no, to me, I think Mike Trout's name is as synonymous as Derek Jeter without the playoffs. He's going to get in. I think there's no doubt he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's just the greatness of what he could have been is always going to haunt him, like Ken Griffey. Ken Griffey could have won a couple World Series. He could have broke the home run record of all time. I think he finished with 676 or something. He came close to 700 despite all the injuries. So maybe we have a renaissance the last 3 to 4, maybe 5 years if we're lucky of his career. But like you said, and I said, he's got to put together at least 70 to 80% playing time per season to do that and be consistent. Because, like you said, he goes back to an 80 to a 60 gamer. Everyone's just going to roll their eyes and be like, oh, okay, this contract did not turn out like we wanted it.
I'm looking at Corey Seager's numbers right now because you brought his up. Let's real quick talk about him. So he's a Rookie of the Year,
Mm-hmm.
5-time All-Star, 2-time World Series winner. By the way, both of those were as a World Series MVP. Sure, one of them was a ring pop, but one of those was legitimate. 3-time Silver Slugger, and he was also the NLCS MVP.
Mm-hmm.
He's a career 35 WAR player,
Mm-hmm.
through 3,000, almost 4,000 at bats. He has 1,105 hits and
Mm-hmm.
188 home runs, but he's not a 30, 40 homer a year kind of guy. He's like in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a career batting average of 290. He's only 30. So in theory, he's at 1,105 hits. He's going to get to about 2,200
Mm-hmm.
with about 10 years left of his career.
About
He'll
350
probably be at about 350 home runs. I don't know, man. I mean, if he's over 270, can maybe get 1 Gold Glove, 2 Gold Gloves. I think he's a Hall of Famer, not a first ballot Hall of Famer like Trout was supposed to be. But those are respectable numbers.
Oh no, I look at it this way, bro. If he's playing any other position, second base, first base, third base, corner outfielder, even center fielder, he doesn't make it. He doesn't make it.
No, yeah.
But the fact that he's at shortstop puts him above so many because there's not too many shortstops. There's probably less than 5 that have 300 or more home runs, let alone 250 or more. So he's going to at least hit 250, and he's most likely, like you said, going to hit 3 to 350. That's going to make him close to a first ballot Hall of Famer. So that would get him in. And then with his batting average being what it is the last few years, yeah. But I just, I mean, and then then again, I'm since they've gone to a balanced schedule, where it's not playing Texas 19 times a year, I'm sure his batting average career-wise is going to go down because he doesn't play the Angels.
Or the A's as much.
Yeah.
I will say this, living here about 20 minutes from their stadium now, I do get to watch Corey Seager a lot. I liked him with the Dodgers. I've always liked him as a player, always been a pretty good guy from every indication we have. People seem to like playing with him. He's a good leader. You know what I mean? Like, he's somebody who, if the Angels would have got him in 2019, I wouldn't have been upset. Or what year was it? 2021, I wouldn't have been upset.
Yeah.
We had just lost Simmons. So, we were still kind of going with the plug and go shortstops. I would have loved to have a guy like Seager. But hey, don't get me wrong. I love Neto now, and I think Neto is also going to be a very good player. But I digress. The Oakland A series. Do you really have too much to say about that? It was a poorly played series. The first two games were atrocious. I want to talk a little bit about the third game, but anything about those first two games?
Just that, I mean, you walked out two pitchers that, Griffin Canning all of a sudden has arm trouble again. You brought back whatever the hell his name is. Yeah. and he stunk. And that's against a bad offense. And then our offense did nothing. The analytics was in full effect for both games. And they looked like they had been playing for 72 hours straight. I mean, they did look tired. And it's like, how are you tired? And then again, my takeaway from those first two games is, where the hell was the dong? Here's a guy who won the game, second to last game before the end of the first season, or first half of the season. 2 home runs, walked it off, was exciting. They interviewed him for like a half hour that one inning in game 4. You don't play him then, and you don't play him any bit of the Oakland series. And that's a guy who's a contact dude. And again, you're shooting, and they should have been swept. They should have been swept had they not had that rally in the
thanks to Kevin Pillar, really.
Yeah, I mean, they straight up get swept by a team who is playing literally for nothing.
I mean, you act like you're surprised. Didn't we get swept by Oakland 2 weeks ago?
It's not that I'm surprised. It's just I keep getting butthurt because I do believe that if we shred the analytics and let Ron Washington just call a goddamn game, let his coaches teach these guys the fundamentals, just stop with the restraints. I'm not saying they're going to win the World Series or go to the playoffs, Fernando, but I'm just saying they'll play a lot better.
Yeah, something's got to give, right? So you had Mike Scioscia, who was by the gut. That what is he, Italian? That Italian gut of his.
I love spaghetti.
Yeah, and you know what? There's no problem with that. Spaghetti's good. I think most people love pasta, some way, shape, or form. Love pasta.
Garlic bread, mwah.
Yeah, chef's kiss. Well, cultural appropriation from you, maybe.
There you go.
But it's okay. So you had Mike Scioscia, who was all by the gut, okay? And then you went to Brad Osmus, who was a computer. You know what I mean? It was printing out paper. Here's what the data says. Here's what the data says. We must use an opener. And then we went to Joe Madden, and, that guy is as high as someone hanging out with Snoop Dogg and Limp Bizkit. And that guy, in the words of Heath Bell, was super lackadaisical. Did whatever. We're just here for the vibes type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have Ron Washington, who in theory might be a half and half guy, but we've yet to really see that. I don't think that's his fault. We were all excited when we got Ron Washington, and I still think he's the right guy for the job, because no matter what, this season and next season has nothing to do with wins and losses. We have said that ad nauseum, and nothing makes me more upset than Angels fans like, well, this fan base can't handle a total rebuild. Honestly, most of this fan base, the super educated portion of this fan base, wants a full rebuild, right? We've all admitted that we were all honks at one time, right? We were disciples of Roger Lodge. We loved Artie Moreno. There was a time where all of us were cool with all that. But those days are over. And now we kind of understand, okay, well, this organization needs to get torn down to the studs, where we've got nothing left to cheer for on the major league roster besides, Neto, Shanuel, and Ohapi. And we can live with that.
You know what this team can't take, Fernando? It can take this fan base can take a rebuild if we really got one. But you know what they can't take is promotions being taken away. You take away these promotions. No lie. The hand puppets, the beach.
I want the hand puppet. That's the sad thing. I want it.
The Kip Moore, the bobbleheads. Ooh. If you take away like half the promotions, this place will be dead. And then you'd finally have fans going, there's not a reason to come to the damn stadium. Like they finally would kick in, but the honks are like, hey, there's a contest by the Guinness Book of World Records to have the most hand puppets on your hand during one inning.
Hey guys, you guys want to see where I'm putting my puppet?
I got this
Johnny
hand
put it
puppet
on
from
me.
John Stamos.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't really have too much to say about those first two games. They were poorly played. We scored a combined 5 runs versus their what? 21?
Yeah.
The first two games. Now game three, I you guys were kind of saying that this team doesn't have a lot of heart, and there's certain guys you guys are absolutely right about. But I will say the one thing that I do like, the guys who you want to have heart have proven that they have it. You know,
Correct.
Ohapi, Neto, Shanuel. Nobody believes that those guys, don't want to be there, right? You know, Neto hustles all the time. Ohapi has had some clutch moments, as has Neto, and that's what you want to see. You know, these young guys proving that when the lights do get brighter in a couple years, maybe they can do what it takes. Because Trout, when the lights are on, it's kind of that Trump meme where he's like, it's too bright, shut them off. That's kind of what it is
Yeah.
when Trout's under the limelight. Everyone's like, hey, get Trout to the playoffs. Why? Because he's proven that he can handle clutch moments in the regular season. And the guy can't even handle getting on the field at this point. Forget about getting him in the playoffs. Playoffs? Talking to me about playoffs? This guy's got to play a game first.
Well, that's what's sad too. I mean, you see, look, I make fun of him all the time because he's doing the squid thing. And that's Moniak, celebrating with a less than 200 average. Or like the other night, he's 209, but he hits a home run. But you've seen the fiery aspect out of him. I want to see him excited and do good. It's frustrating when he doesn't. The same with Joe Adell. Joe Adell and Moniak should be mentioned with the three that you mentioned before. And those core five should be carrying this team. And if they were doing better, if those guys were just hitting 230 to 250, would make a tremendous difference to this team overall. Because if you look at the guys who are hitting with runners in scoring position, it is your O'Hoppies, it is your Shannawells, it is your Netos. You're getting nothing out of Drury. You're getting mostly nothing out of number 6 and other hitters in the lineup. But if you were to have Adele and Moniak not being those automatic outs all the time or just sporadically good, if they were anywhere consistent to those core three, you'd have a core five, and the offense would probably go from scoring 2.5 runs a game, which they're doing, to maybe 4. And that would make an enormous difference.
Hey, I will say this about number 6. Again, that final game against Oakland, I love seeing him run a ball out. The double play ball, he actually ran.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Beat out a throw to beat out a double play. I was
But
like,
see,
oh my gosh.
But doesn't he do this, Fernando? He's like a bad ex or a girl that you're trying to get over, and she just keeps
That's fair.
trying
She
to
does
change.
enough. She does enough. She just bought some nice lingerie.
Yeah, she'll wear a skirt in front of you to try to get you back and all that, and you're like, maybe I should give her a second chance. The moment you believe, she makes fun of you in front of your friends, or she does something to piss you off, and you're like, why'd I go back to her again?
Yeah, she pissed in your Cheerios. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like earlier this year when certain guys weren't getting playing time, and we were like, "Whoa, whose Cheerios did you piss in?"
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was a bad series against Oakland. I did like the fight that last game. So at least now we can say the very last game in Oakland, at least this current franchise. Maybe Oakland will get another team one day. I really doubt it. But you never know what the future holds. So with that being said,
well, we only finished, Fernando, 51 games under 500 since 1961.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Well, I mean, in all fairness, there was a lot of Oakland teams that were very good.
Yes, there was. There was. But
It's funny because when you think about Oakland, you do think about a winning organization. Yeah, they haven't won any championships in a long time, but they do normally contend at the least.
yeah, when I first started watching baseball, they were in the World Series a lot. And, they had the Bash brothers. And then when my dad was younger, they were in the 70s. They were a really good team. And then early 90s, not so much. Late 90s, yes. And then into the 2000s, early 2000s to about 2010, then it was like every other year.
Yep.
Yeah, they've had their run. You're right. And
Absolutely.
they've actually, if you were to compare the two organizations, and you were to say, okay, let's go back to 1980 or 86 and try to name as many Angels and as many A's, I bet you can name more Oakland A's as far as being more mainstream players.
Yeah, probably, because I mean, the Oakland A's, because of their ability to produce major league talent and not continuously sign it, once free agency hits, their footprint is all over Major League Baseball. I
Correct.
mean, during the Moneyball days, I mean, Johnny Damon, Giambi, like those guys scattering. It wasn't just those guys. Miguel Tejada is one that people don't talk about. Carlos Pena is one that people don't talk about. Those guys went on to be productive major league players. So that's what I'm saying. Their footprint's been everywhere, almost our whole lives.
What about the law firm of Hudson, Mulder, and Zito?
Yeah, dude, one of the greatest like three-headed monsters.
Yeah, I hated that. I hated when they had those three guys. I'm like, damn it, we got all three of them in a series.
When I was a kid, dude, Barry Zito was one of my favorite pitchers consistently. He was a really, really good player. Did I
Yeah.
tell you that last weekend I met Raleigh Fingers?
No,
Speaking
you
of the
didn't.
A's, yeah, at the All Star game, All Star Village. I
Mm.
I got to meet Raleigh Fingers. I got to meet Mike Cameron. I got to meet a couple of other guys who other Rangers fans were excited about. They had short autograph lines. So I was like, "Hey, can you sign this ball for me?"
To be honest with you, like I told Steve Elise, I'm like, because she's like, hey, Fernando's in Texas at the All Star game. I said, yeah, he's at the draft right now. She's like, what are the chances he gets on TV? I'm like, I'm hoping it's good, but I would say 25%. And then she showed me right away, and then people were messaging me, and I'm like, look, Fernando's on TV. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And I saw you live. I'm like, that's cool, dude. You had a nice
He's
little moment right there.
I did. I got a couple. So I was there at the draft with my girlfriend's cousin and
Mhm.
his fiance. I was able to get 4 tickets because it was kind of like one of those like apply for tickets, and they'll give them to sporadic people. And I was able to get four. And there was the guy sitting next to us, the Royals fan. If you guys see when the Royals made their pick and you
Mhm.
saw me next to him and I were like pretending we were friends, even though we'd never met each other before, just because we thought maybe they'd give us a better chance of getting on TV, and it worked. But it was really, really cool to be there. I was this close to getting Christian Moore's autograph. He
Mm.
was doing interviews, and like he had signed for like two people before me, and then like they kind of pulled him away, and I was like, dang it.
Did
We
you?
should have a couple of draft picks though that are going to come on our podcast. I can't say who yet because I don't want to jinx it, but be on
Yeah.
the lookout for that. We Todd can vouch for it. We've been talking to a couple of the guys.
And did you get to? Did they play his interview live to where you could hear it in the arena when
Yes,
when? Okay, that's cool because that thing went viral real quick, and a lot of people were like, "Man, this
where
is
he's
gonna
like, I'm
be."
going to win a ring. That one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But the thing is, a lot of people are saying, "Okay, it's an." I don't agree with this one. They said it's going to be another Ibar Kendrick. I think Moore can be better than Kendrick, and I think as much as I love, and I mean love Ibar, he's one of my favorite shortstops of all time. I think Neto's going to be far better.
yeah. I mean, Ibar wasn't the best hitter. He wasn't a bad hitter by any
No,
stretch, but I mean, he wasn't going to win any Silver Sluggers.
no, but he did. I think what we want every hitter with his capabilities to do, and that is just he did whatever was asked by Sosha. He put the ball in play. He hardly struck out, and he was one of those unsung heroes that, again, when a pitcher is struggling, he just ran in there real quick, pat him on the back, give him a quick saying, whether it was a joke, whether it was just a confidence builder. And you could see the pitchers always pitch better when Ibar came in there. And he was just a good teammate. And
Yeah,
I miss guys like him. And I know your guy is Simmons. He was sort of a similar type dude that would run in there, talk to a pitcher, and calm him down. And that's leadership. And
absolutely.
I think with Neto and Moore and Shonawell, and maybe if we're able to hold on to what's his name at third, why am I blanking? The guy we were trying to trade, or I was trying to trade, Renifo.
And yeah,
I
Luis
think that's a
Renifro.
really good infield, for years to come.
Yeah. I'm excited for the possibility of that infield. Like you had said, if they're able to keep Rengifo, give him a 2-3 year deal, put him at third base, and then maybe see if we can get someone else behind him just in case.
Correct.
Personally, a move that I really want to see this trade deadline as we're wrapping up here. I really want to see the Angels trade Tyler Anderson to the Orioles and another piece to get Connor Norby. He's a 270, 280 hitter. He's a second base, shortstop, and third baseman. One of the Orioles' top prospects. Clearly, the Orioles have a log jam in their infield, and they need pitching. You know what I mean? Because they haven't really signed pitching ever. I think they will sign Burns because now they have the new owner.
Yeah.
But I think it would be a big boost to them if they can get Tyler Anderson, who's on a fairly team-friendly deal for the rest of this year, and they have him for next year too. I think you can give up Tyler Anderson, and maybe another piece, Kevin Pillar, in exchange for Connor Norby, and there you go, boom. That's a solid infield.
Yeah,
Moore, Neto.
you've been touting Norby for a while, and I'd like to. I haven't really done my homework on him, but I'd like to
You
see
should.
what he can do with the Angels because that sounds like a great pickup. But I will say this though about Tyler Anderson: if he goes there with Burns and Rodriguez at the top of the rotation as a 3, that's dangerous for the Yankees because
Absolutely.
that's a guy who can keep the ball in a home run ballpark like Baltimore and in New York, and two places where you're going to need to do it. And he pitches the contact. He's been utilizing his stuff, and if he brings over what he's done with the Angels to a team that can actually score runs, he's going to be a very difficult number 3 for the Orioles, and it could put him over the top, bro.
I think it could. If the Orioles can get a guy like a Tyler Anderson, someone who's not going to be an ace, but is definitely going to be a complimentary piece to there, and they don't really lose anything out of it. Like I said, they have a long jam in their infield. They have, let alone the fact that their infield is around for years.
Yeah, they're
You know what I
blessed with
mean? They're
talent.
all young. So with that being said, I mean, these guys can spare that. And Tyler Anderson, as their number 2, number 3, all of a sudden we're really talking about the Orioles being World Series favorites. People have already been talking about them in that
Yeah.
light, but now it really is.
Well,
These guys can win it.
think about a guy that I'm thinking about the Angels picking up next year in free agency because they, like you said, they have a log jam of prospects. They have it in the outfield too. Santander is most likely not going to come back to the Orioles, and that's a decent hitter that I would say, okay, if you're moving on from Adele or you got a spot open in right with no Moniak, no Pilar, no nothing like that, I would take him.
I would too. There's a couple of guys who I'm really, really wanting the Angels to go after, but I think they need to be smart. I think you and I have said, and I'll close with this. If the Angels do this trade deadline correctly, we could be talking about a team that could be contending for a playoff spot, not for a World Series. That won't happen for a while in theory, but they could contend for a playoff spot potentially in 2026, 2027. I think next year will be a step up from a year like this year. But if they do it right, I think Christian Moore is going to be fast tracked. And we're supposed to have Taylor Blake Ward on hopefully in the next week or so to talk about the Angels draft picks. But I know he isn't crazy about that pick. Maybe he's changed his mind, but we talked that night and he wasn't crazy about it. And I think the biggest reason for that is because he felt that Moore, and I won't put words in his mouth, but if he feels like Moore is going to get rushed because there's an immediate need there, right? The Angels need a second baseman because Drury clearly isn't going to be around. So with that being said, they're going to be forced to call him up quickly because there's no other option.
Yeah, I would have to say this. I would be super duper shocked if he got a year between this season and next year of minor league time.
I don't think he makes it past the All-Star break next year still in the minors. No way.
Yeah, there's no doubt because, I mean, if he does what Shonawell, Neto, and Hoppy in theory did with Philly and with us, there's no way they're going to keep him down there because we're so razor thin. So you're right. He's going to be fast-tracked.
Yeah, absolutely. And the trade deadline will kind of determine something like that as well. But like I said, I truly, truly, truly believe that if they play their cards right, we're talking about a team that's going to be contending in a couple years for a playoff spot. But that's all we got out of me today.
That's true. I'm just hoping next year we can be somewhat close to 500, and I think that would be a win. If we're finishing like 77 and like 85 or 80 and 82, I'd be okay with that.
Don't get your hopes up, buddy.
No, I'm just saying I'd be okay with it, man. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Oh,
We'll have to
Right?
do a podcast episode soon where I get to talk about the home run derby and all that.
Yes, we will. We'll jump on that sometime
Yeah.
either this week or next week. So
Yeah, because I know we had a listener of ours that wants to come on who was also at the home run derby and talk about it. So
there you go. Well, it was good to do a show with you again. Finally, it's
yeah,
been a while.
yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully we can do at least one more before the trade deadline show together. But
That trade
those are
deadline,
always a good time.
the trade deadline show is going to be really good, right, Fernando? You want to give the fans a quick synopsis on that before we get out of here?
Yeah, so we're still trying to figure out whether it's going to be 2 or 3 hours of coverage. We've typically done the last like 2 hours. So that's going to be 3 p.m. Pacific time is the end of the trade deadline next Tuesday, the 30th.
Correct.
So yeah, and we always go about 30 minutes afterward because there's always those little trickles in. So we're gonna have some live guests on. So far, the only one that's like super confirmed is Susie from Baseball and Bourbon. So she should be coming on. Obviously, we can never promise that, but that's what we've been told. We'll ask some friends of the show as well, the normals, Frankie Kazarians. We'll ask all those people if they're willing to come on for a little bit and talk with us. But if not, the Hitty crew will be there. Todd's supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be there. Rob?
Rob, I think
Rob?
James Squared's going to be popping in.
Okay, yeah, Dominic said he could be there. They're early going. And then I think Andrew said he's going to join us as well. So there's a chance that we can have the entire Hitty staff on board, except for Joe.
And we haven't done that in quite some time. So that's going to be very nice.
Exactly. So either way, come on, tune in, follow us on all the social medias for that kind of official word when we do tell you guys what time. But it's always a fun show. We talk all of Major League Baseball, so you can tell all your buddies, whether they're Pirates fans, Yankees fans, that we are going to cover all teams. We've always done that. We always give breakdowns of what we think about the trades. And that's where we also try to have some of those other people who are way more experts than us, like Taylor Blake Ward when he came on a couple years ago. He's able to really break down the X's and O's other than us who are more like, oh, what a bad trade,
Yeah.
But,
we try to give our quick synopsis of, I think the Pirates struck out, no pun intended, stuff like that. I mean, we're going to try to give our grades initially, instant analysis of what happened.
Exactly.
All right, so that's another good show for Todd Fox and the Lone Star Halo.
Viva Los Angelitos.